it for Jennifer
So,
Lynn.
first reaction ever. The mystery box. I've seen one other person do a mystery box thing, and the mystery box is like a place where people go tell their stories. Usually they just tell sex stories or whatnot. But I think it's also like poetry, maybe. I don't know. But the first person that I've seen was like Noel Church, talk about like his addiction to pornography and the way it related in his relationships. So we're gonna watch this chick here at the Mystery Box show.
The moment I heard his voice,
Woo!
the hairs on the back of my neck stood on end. I was sitting at a bar, and the person attached to that voice had just ordered a beer.
This is like 13 minutes long. We're going to try to go straight through it.
Scottish brogue I'd ever heard in person. And in that moment, I envisioned a really tall man with broad shoulders and a handsome chiseled face covered in this red scruffy beard. And but when I turned around, it's not what I saw. He was definitely in his 60s and somebody's grandfather for sure.
Wow.
He had the most perfect head of
like
salt and pepper hair that was brushed back.
Maybe 30-ish.
Clean shaven.
She looks 30s.
And he was shorter than me. He introduced himself to me and sat in the chair next to me. And
Papa picking up on
started chatting, and we got on like we'd been pals for a long time. I was really intrigued by Francis, and I was really hoping that he would be open to my seduction of him.
She's gonna seduce him, huh?
Yeah. Now, while my intentions for Francis might seem perfectly clear, but you need to know that I had clearly underestimated this guy. He had accepted my invitation to continue our conversation.
Yeah. You can tell she's telling the truth because of her reactions, like the way she did that about underestimating this dude.
And we were making out on my couch when he abruptly
stood
with
Papa
up
on her couch.
And he commanded me to lead him to my bedroom.
Oh, alpha.
When we got there, he pointed to the end of the bed and he instructed me to stand there and face him. And I was mesmerized as he told me to put one leg up on the bed. He walked toward me.
He's a freak.
Grabbed me by the neck, and he took his other hand and he put it between my legs. Now, I've been fingered before, but never like this.
Oh my God.
He curved his fingers inside of me just so. He was touching a part of my body that I hadn't known existed before this. And with just a few thrusts, I began to quiver, and it's like those women that are like saved, like.
I grew up in church.
Began to quiver before I knew what was happening. This
I know what she's talking about.
Fluid exploded from my vagina, and it was all over his arm and all down my legs, and I was in this puddle. Like you could hear it.
I like the way she's telling this, like she's acting it out.
So with his fingers still inside of me, he took his other arm and he pulled me a little closer and he says, "There, lass."
Oh my God.
Haven't you ever done that before?
Oh my God. You can hear the crowd getting into this one too.
All I could do was whimper and just no. And when I finally regained my composure, I whispered back to him, "Will you please do that again?"
Oh, Papa getting it.
He did. Many times that night.
Oh, God.
And I was in awe of how much liquid came out of me.
Gotta love squirters.
But when he saw that I finally had enough,
oh my God.
Because I didn't know.
Oh my
he
god.
he tucked me into the covers and he patted my hair and
Oh,
he kissed me on the forehead
he's a
and he
gentleman too.
reassured me that he was going to see himself out and lock the door. And when I woke the next morning, I found this handwritten note from Francis telling me how
Oh,
much fun he'd had, and he left his number at the bottom.
sweet.
Now, what you need to know about the night that I met Francis is that I had only been separated and divorced for less than a year. I was recovering from the only relationship I'd ever known. At the age of 21, I married my ex husband, and after 2 decades of marriage, he left me for another woman.
Okay, 2 decades, at least 30, right? No, 40. Whoa, she's got to be like 45ish telling this story, like 40 to 45. She does not look 40 or 45 years old.
Now, before I met him,
Sorry, my
I
heater's
was
about to kick on.
this,
It's cold outside.
well, promiscuous would be a kind way to say what I did,
Uh,
but that was all related to my childhood. While if you were on the outside looking in, it might have seemed normal. There was a darkness there, and it skewed how I viewed relationships and how I wanted to connect with people. And I was really comfortable with sex, but emotional intimacy wasn't anything I was interested in or capable of.
okay.
So
That's
fast
usually
forward
how
back
a
to meeting
guy
my
is.
ex. While I was young and sexual, I also thought my job was to get married and raise a family. That's what I was kind of raised to do. That was what was expected. And he seemed like a
She
good
been to
fit
church
because he
too.
was single and aloof. And I I should have known then that it really wasn't meant to be. I guess what I realized about my ex is that he covered my light. He he got off on making fun of me. Uh, Even when I would tell him that it would make me uncomfortable, he would just tell me that I was being too sensitive and I was too sexual.
We as guys, we need to listen to our girl a little bit more than what we have been. I've had bad relationships, and I was the cause, I think. So I think communication, and this guy should not have been making fun of you if it like hurt you. You know what I mean?
We'd had sex in the morning and I was in the mood that evening. The answer was always no. And can't tell you how many times he caught me masturbating. But and not only that, I had to endure comments about my body's imperfections. I remember this one time. I was so excited. I bought a new pair of panties and I wanted to show him. And I'd always kind of struggled with my weight and I was feeling really confident and I held him up and he just looked at me and he said, "Well, you know you're never going to look like one of those supermodels, right?" And
Now that's
I didn't know
that.
what to say.
Whoa, that's
All I knew
bad.
was that not
That
only was
is
I too
horrible.
sexual, I wasn't good enough. So the end of my marriage was a chance to reclaim me and my femininity and my sexuality. And it's why I did not hesitate to invite Francis up to my apartment that evening. And while we went on to see each other for a little bit, he and I weren't meant to be, and this story really isn't about him. It's about what he helped me discover that night and the path it led me towards. So I decided, well, anything that he can do, I can do better. So, like you do when you want to learn something new, you consult the Googles.
Google is your
And what I
friend.
learned there is that it's definitely not pee,
Oh,
or maybe it is.
some people think it
Uh,
is. Some people don't think so.
it's always associated with
It.
an orgasm, or maybe just sometimes. But really, what I learned,
I think it could be for
there
some,
is clearly not
but
enough legitimate research on this topic. And I shouldn't trust Google. I should just trust me, my own body, and what I was feeling.
okay, Google is not your friend.
So the first time I tried to make myself squirt, I felt like I was trying to channel.
Hey, hey, don't be embarrassed, girl. I squirt too. Shoot.
My inner porn star. But if you'd been in the room watching, it probably came off more like if Lucille Ball did porn.
I don't watch TV. I don't know who Lucille Ball is.
Because,
Is
like, the first few times I was just on my back, just kind of.
Wait, is she talking about Lucy Ball on I Love Lucy? Let me know. I have no clue who she's talking about.
Aimlessly ramming my fingers. I'm like, this isn't doing anything for me. And then I remembered every time Francis did it, he had me standing. And I don't know if any of the ladies in here have ever tried to finger themselves standing up, but it's really kind of awkward. So I decided I would squat. And because I'd still be upright, but less awkward of an angle. And the first time I did that, I actually lost my balance and fell. And I remember just laying there on my back thinking, what the hell are you doing? But I was really determined. And eventually I was able to keep my balance. And I still I just couldn't quite get it. And then I remembered how Francis curved his fingers.
She did the motions.
And then I had success, and I practiced a lot.
I practiced a lot.
But I also knew that part of the charm was experiencing it with a partner. And I mean, at this point, like, I'm single and just kind of dating. So the first time I kind of hooked up with somebody and I was like, hey, have you ever seen anybody squirt? So the first time explaining to somebody, it was awkward, and they tried and they weren't successful. So I jumped up on the bed and I squatted and I was like, you just do it like this. And they just kind of met with a blank stare, like they weren't really sure what was going on.
Oh my God.
And there were a few other partners that I had some success with, but I never really experienced like I had with Francis. And I'd kind of given up on the idea of that. In fact, it was a couple months later.
You can see her
that I had just
hands shaking like she's in front of a big
idea,
audience. Like these are normal. These are normal people at this mystery box show that just stand up there and just tell their stories. So you can tell, like, she's definitely nervous. I would be, but yeah, you can, like, they're like just legitimate normal people. They've not practiced this unless they plan to go do this and probably don't in front of a mirror or something.
Army. And similar to Francis, I was completely blatant in my seduction of him when we met. And his very polite response was, thank you, but how about I get your number and we go out on a date sometime? And I was like, no, you kissed me. You want to come home with me.
Oh.
Thankfully, he did let me seduce him that night. But again, I didn't know what I was getting myself into. He touched my body in a way that made me forget about my stretch marks, in a way that let me have a love and desire for myself that I had never experienced. With him, I realized that I felt completely free and unencumbered. I was able to be in the moment. He was able to touch me in a way that I wasn't so concerned about how I looked, if my belly was jiggly or if I was in the right position, that both boobs looked full and not too saggy. Because we all know it's hard to get both tits to look really good at the same time. Or if I was bent over far enough that the cellulite on my ass was all smoothed out. With him, it just
like
seemed
super
like
self-conscious.
None of that mattered. And I realized that all this time I had been trying to recreate this experience of squirting, but it really wasn't about that. It was about all the things leading up to it and the feeling of release and freedom that I felt, because with Jeremy, it was like squirting was like letting go of the past. Like Everything about me that was
That's
broken was
weird.
somehow made better in that
But
moment. And it allowed me to have a healthy relationship with someone. And it allowed me to be able to squirt like I did that first time, only it is different and so much better.
all right. So what do we learn? Pay attention to your girlfriends and your wifeys. Appreciate them. And be nice to them. I'm sure you're not freaking perfect either. The guy that talked about her, I'm sure he isn't perfect, but she's not all about that. It's about emotion. So communicate with your girl. Well, Francis is going to come along and just snatch her up off your hands and take her from you, boys. Oh man, but that was a pretty funny video. I like that actually. That was a good one. That was a good one. First reaction video ever. So it's the Mystery Box Show. What was her name? Jennifer Lynn. Jennifer Lynn. So I think I'll do a few more of these, but right now, hey, go give your girl a big hug and tell them how much you love them. Peace out.